Hi, I have been asked a question about the difference. Somebody's about to order a new chair and a new wheelchair, and it's their first time to get their custom chair, and so they're having some difficulties knowing the difference between a rigid chair, the folding chair, and some of the questions that they ask you when you are measured for a new chair. They ask you all these questions: what do you want? And you don't have a clue what you want. You don't know what the different terminologies mean and the angles and what it all means. So I'm by no means an expert on this, but I have been through it, so I thought I might provide a little video to show what that means. My own story: when I became paralyzed, I was 5 months pregnant. So obviously the shape of my body at that time was different than it would be for the rest of the time. When you order a chair, typically insurance only pays for a new chair every 5 years. So I certainly wasn't going to have a pregnant body for 5 years. So when the first person came out to measure me, they just took all these measurements. They said I need like a 20-inch wide chair, and this one's 17. And so, you know, that's a big difference to have a 20-inch chair compared to a 17-inch chair for 5 years. But I didn't know anything. I was brand new to all this world, and I didn't know the difference. And so the thing that bothered me at the end is the only reason I even knew to ask questions was because they got finished with all the measurements. I wasn't even asked if I wanted a folding chair or a rigid chair. And when they left, it bothered me because they hadn't asked me what color a wheelchair I wanted. I thought, surely I get to pick the color. So when I called and asked about it and talked to a different person, they said, well, of course you get to pick the color. And then the more we talked, they kind of filled me in a little bit more. So I called a different place. I actually called a representative from the Sport Aid catalog, or from the company Sport Aid, and they really talked me through it. And I told them that they were asking all these things, and because I got to thinking, if I wasn't asked about the option of my color, what else was I not asked about? So I, being the independent person that I am and don't like not having an opinion, decided I was going to do a little research and investigating on my own. So I called and talked to a guy that was actually quadriplegic, and he really helped me know a lot of things. It was then that made me decide I did not want to order a custom chair until after I had the baby, after a couple months of having the baby. So my husband and I went ahead and just ordered a chair that was close to my dimensions, a better chair, not just the rented hospital style chair, because that's not good for your health. But we ordered it off eBay, and I got an Invacare A4 off eBay for like $350. And it didn't fit me perfectly, but it was good enough that I had a good framework to support my body and not get pressure sores and things like that. So that got me through till I had the baby. And then after that, I had educated myself enough that I really knew by that time what I was looking for and what I wanted. And this chair is the TiLite rigid chair, and it's the Aero Z, and I really am happy with my chair. But for my friends, that's my story, and so I know the confusion that can come with not understanding. I mean, we are not, when you're newly injured, you do not understand all the lingo, and so maybe this video can be a little bit of help to my friend and maybe to anybody else. So, for you, Chris, here it goes. My chair is the rigid chair, and I know you had talked about wanting maybe a folding chair, which is fine. Doesn't matter to me, whatever you want is fine. I was just going to show you some of the features of my chair, and hopefully you can see. Obviously, we have the cushion, and that can vary too. Mine's a Roho low profile, and there are different options on that. You can search that all out. My chair has the Marathon Schwab tires, or what they are, and I really hope you can see all this in the video. They have air in them, but my other chair that I had, that I told you I ordered from eBay, it was not. It was the kind of tires that, they're just flatless. They don't go flat, they're just real hard. And although you might have to make a repair on this kind of tire or get a flat fix, we did. One day we were in Cincinnati, and I got a flat tire in the middle of a park. But we just found a bike shop there in Cincinnati, and they replaced the inner tube. We bought the inner tube off them, and they did the whole job for $20. So that's much cheaper also than a wheelchair vending supply. A bike shop can take care of tires. But the ride, when you're sitting, is a lot better. It's a lot smoother. It hits the bumps easier because it's got the air in it. I just have standard wheels and the rims. You can do a bunch of fancier stuff. My insurance would pay for fancy stuff, and I'm okay with that. The rims have tabs on them. They got two different tabs, and the outer tab had my rims set out farther. And I personally like to wheel with my hand on the wheel like that. It's just a habit I got into, and I don't feel like I get enough grip to go with my other rims. So I had my dad take the rims off and put them in on as close as they would go. And it's easier for my hand to get around the rim. But the other advantage that I've loved about this is because just that little clearance gets you in better doorways. If you have tighter doorways, just being able to, like I couldn't get my parents' their bathroom, and when Dad put the rims and set them inside, I can get in. So even that little amount of your rims being inset, now if you're wanting a good grip on your rim, it's not as tight. You can see my thumb won't go down in between there. But like I say, I don't really do like that, and I think most people would not push with their thumb down there anyway. That's just a free tip. The brakes, you have different options on your brakes, what kind you want. This is just the standard. That can get in your way. I have small children. I've set them down before and a diaper gets hung on the lever. But they have different ones, the scissor ones that hide underneath your chair and will flip out. Those are probably better. Once again, I don't know that my insurance would have paid for that. Probably on another chair, I would go ahead and upgrade myself and pay for that out of pocket, because it's just nice not to have things get hung on that, or even getting hung while transferring. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's an option. Another option they're going to give you is, and when they set your chair up, of course my chair comes with side guards that also come off. And but another thing is the dump of the chair, and what the dump means is how far down your rear end's going to set in the chair. If you see the quad rugby players, you'll see that they are like they're sitting so far down, their bottom's so far down that their knees are up in the air. That's considered the dump. The deeper you're in your chair, like this, if you were to be sitting and your bottom's here and this is your legs, the deeper the dump, the more you're not going to tip out this way. But typically you want to sit at a 90-degree angle, where this would be your thighs and your rear end, and this would be your legs hanging down here. You typically want to be at a 90-degree angle. And you can dump it a little bit more if that gives you a little bit more stability. I do have a slight dump on my chair because I don't use my armrests. I have pretty good balance anyway. But I do have the capacity to put the armrests in. I have armrest holes here that my armrests just slide in if I want them, but I really don't like them. They rub my arm and they annoy me. But if I was going to be gone a whole day and have a long day and somebody might be pushing me a lot, it might be nice to have your armrest to put them up there. Also, some people need their armrest to help give them core stability. So if that was the case too, but a little slight dump on my chair allows me to feel a little more stable in my chair. But I don't have much of a dump, but I don't know if you can see, it does angle down slightly in the back. And so that's one thing that's called the dump, the angle of the dump. Typically your physical therapist, or occupational therapist, I guess, somebody who helps you measure for your chair can set some of those. The other thing is footrest height. This is adjustable. And then there are different types of footrests. This is just the foot plate. And other ones are tubular that just have like metal tubing there. The plate is great, I think, because it just kind of keeps your feet from falling through holes or something like that. Another thing that is an option on the folding chairs that I think you had mentioned is the swing away footrests. Now some people use those, and some people would say they're great. So I've never used them. I don't know. I know as in the hospital chair they had the swing away footrests. And they're terrible for maneuvering in tighter places. It's really great. The more you can tuck your feet up underneath you and have them under you, the more they're not banging on things or just being in a tight space and needing to make a tight turn. You may not have all the room to be able, I'm going to ignore the phone so you're going to hear it ringing. I may not have all the room to be able to turn your chair, so the tighter your feet can be underneath you, it's just great because they're not going to, your feet are not going to bang into everything. You're actually going to have room to maneuver and make tighter turns. Another option they're going to give you is the size of your front casters. That all depends on preference and what you want. The tinier the caster is the front wheel, the tinier that is, obviously the more, it's not going to hit stuff when you turn, because they will swivel out and sometimes they get stuck on a wall or on a baseboard. So the smaller they are, the more they stay out of your way. However, the larger they are, the easier it is to go over cracks and bumps on the sidewalk. So it's kind of pick your poison kind of thing. These are 5-inch front casters. This was recommended to me because I really didn't know. But when I called, like I said, this 4-day catalog, I talked to people that have been in chairs for a long time, and this is what they recommended. These are also a rubberized caster, so they're not a hard caster. They're rubber. They're made out of rubber. There's no air in them or anything, but they're just rubber. So that also gives a much smoother ride of going over the bumps. And they're just big enough that they don't hit a crack and just stop. They will go over, but they're small enough. They really don't. I've not had issues with my casters at all. I really like them. The other thing they're going to ask you about is the camber, what degree of camber you want. And the degree of camber, when you're looking at the chair front on, that's your wheels, how they're going to stick out at the bottom. So my chair is 0 degree camber. It has no camber, so my wheels are straight like this. The more degree of camber you get, imagine this is the wheel and this is the wheel. The bottom of your wheels are going to go out like that. So on sports chairs, like the quad rugby again, or basketball chairs, sports chairs, you'll see they have a pretty deep camber. You see these chairs, the top of the wheels are up here and the bottom of the wheels are way far out. Well, that helps avoid a lot of tipping and stuff, which is great if you're in a sport or thing like that. But in everyday use, you don't need very much of a camber. Some people will swear up and down that a 1 or 2 or 3 degree camber makes pushing a little easier. But I've talked to a lot of people in chairs, and they just say they don't see a difference in it. And I know this, my chair is not easy, it's not hard to push at all. And I have 0 degree camber. The more camber you have, the wider that makes your chair. So you have to think about that in visiting people's homes and going through doorways that may not be set up like your house is. So they might have a 32-inch door, and just that 2 degree camber could be enough, depending on how wide your chair needs to be in the first place, of getting in a door. So I'd say if you have a little bit of a wider chair, you know, my chair is 17 wide, so it's, you know, it's not a huge chair, but it's not a small chair either. So I don't really want any extra room to keep me from having to be able to get in somebody's house. Now the breakdown of a chair, also I do have the option of putting on the wheelie bars. I have the holes there. I just don't, because when the wheelie bars are there, obviously they do stop you from tipping. If you need to pop up a step, though, that's about that big, the wheelie bars are going to not let you do that. They're only going to let you pop about that big. And that just gets on my nerves. But when you're first in a chair and trying to get used to it, you may really, you know, want to leave them on to get used to it. But I wouldn't get dependent on them, because you really don't have to have wheelie bars. You can be safe and not have wheelie bars. I do like the option, though, because when I get out and play basketball with my kids and stuff, and just want to play a little hardier and want to not have to think, to be careful if I can lean back far and catch a ball in my chair, or lean back quickly, I don't want to accidentally dump upside down. So I will throw them on when I'm playing in a gymnasium or something with the kids, where I can just have fun and not have to think about keeping my balance good. I will throw them on. So it's good to have that option. Another option they're going to ask you about if you want handlebars or not. My first chair I got off eBay did not have them. I like that personally, because I get sick and tired of people coming up and talking to me, and the whole time they're talking and using their hands, they're leaning on your chair, and they wiggle me, and it just really gets on my nerves. But my husband is thankful for them, because there are times you do need some help, and he just felt like he didn't have anywhere to hang on to. Plus, he's 6 foot tall, and anywhere he did push me, he had to bend really low. So this at least gives him something to hang on to between me and no one else. If I had to do it again, I still would not have it, because I just don't have him help me enough to make it used to driving me nuts when people are standing near me and talking. But if he really wants something, I may be nice to do it anyway. The back rest is another option. I have a hard backrest. The other ones that chairs typically come with is a sling, which is just the material of the back of the chair, and it's got more of a sling. My physical therapist and occupational therapist felt like I needed this. Gives you a little bit of side support. The more I've come along in therapy, my core balance has got a lot better. So on my next chair that I order, I would not even have a backrest this high. And one reason you got to think about that if you have good balance is because you dress and do a lot of things in your chair. And the higher the back is, the more limited on your range of leaning back over your chair. So I would like a lower chair. I like to be able to lean back over the back of my chair and get a good stretch, and this just hits right below my shoulder blades, and I just feel like I can't get a good stretch. And so this is a great backrest. It's the Matrix PB Elite, but and it's been fine, and it looks sharp, but when I get another one, I'll definitely go lower. This little apparatus hardware you see right here, this does not come on the chair. This was I attached for my freewheel attachment. That hangs there, so I can hang my freewheel there. But that would not be on the chair normally. Okay, so the rigid chair, whereas a folding chair, you probably take off your cushion. I'm really not exactly sure what they do, except that I know the wheels, I think, come off, and then you would pull up the middle sling here, and the chair would fold in, and probably the wheels would come off if you needed them to. But a rigid chair breaks down great too. I just take off the back. Obviously, you know, the wheels will come off with the push button, and I won't take the other one off, and the back folds down. So, you know, if you watch my other videos, you can see how I take it apart and get it in my vehicle, but it's really not that heavy. It's not light, but it's not that bad. So you can maneuver it, and it fits in the back of our van. Now, one thing I do when I have the children with me, or if it's just me and my husband, we just fold down one of the back seats of the van, and we don't even take the chair apart at all. We just, my little 7-year-old son can load and unload my chair out of our van. He doesn't take it apart at all. He just tips it back on the bumper and rolls it right into the van, and then when he's done, they roll it right back out. So the rigid chairs, you know, they're not that bad. I think they're a little sturdier because they're all one piece, whereas your folding chairs have a crisscross bar underneath, and there's more hardware under here, which can make your chair a little bulkier and a little heavier, because the rigid chairs don't have to have the hardware to crisscross underneath so that your chair can fold. And what I researched, but I don't know this to be fact because I've not had a folding chair, but what I've researched is that the rigid chairs are a little more stable. They don't creak as much and groan because there's not as many hinges, you know, for things like that. But that's, again, what I've been told by the people at Sport Aid, and I wouldn't know that for myself. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Obviously the color. Chairs get banged up, so a color can chip in the paint, but they're also pretty cool. So I was talked into just getting the satin titanium, and they give you like little SOS pads, and anytime I get black marks or scratches, which you do from just being a bad driver, but they'll just buff out pretty good. My chair's filthy right now because it's winter, and so it gets a lot of snow and yuckies and salt and stuff. So I apologize, it's not very clean at the moment, but I love my chair, and I hope everybody loves their chair. And that's the thing I think that it's important to know and do your homework before you order the chair, because as helpful as physical therapists and wheelchair measurers and these medical supply companies want to be, and I don't doubt they want to be helpful, they don't live in this chair, and you have to, and you're going to have to get it for the next 5 years. So don't be intimidated. You know, ask around, and don't be intimidated by what they may recommend, because they just may recommend based on what they think is the best, but they may not know that's the best. So ask the people that use chairs, because they're the ones that are truly the experts and are going to know what works and what doesn't work, mostly by trial and error. So I hope that maybe this video can give you some kind of a little bit more knowledge maybe on what to order and what not to order in a chair. And if you have any more questions, just go to www.aliciareagan.com and hit the contact form and let me know, and I'll be glad to try to answer any more questions that I've come up with. So just let me know if you need anything else, and I hope this helped. Thank you.